friends, welcome to AceKreates. My name is Amanda, and if you are new here, welcome to my channel. This is where I talk about everything that I'm doing in crochet and knitting and yarn acquisitions. And so today we're going to talk about my October makes and everything that I got done in October, as well as my works in progress and acquisitions. So let's grab some coffee or tea and get into today's video. Joining me today is one of our cats, Punky Brewster. She's a little calico. She's about 10 years old, and she's a little love bug. This is actually why she came home from the shelter, is because she was a lab cat. I have two older cats that are not lab cats, and so yeah, so this is Punky. So hopefully she'll stay pretty calm during the whole video and won't be too distracting. So the first thing I want to show everybody today is my full fade cowl, which is a Tunisian crochet cowl done in the round. This is a pattern that is released on November 9th, so this week. If you're watching it when I post it, if you're watching in the future, it's already posted, and I'll have links in the description. If you're watching this before it gets released, I will go back and put the link in the description. I'll also have everything on my socials, because I've been sharing this a lot on my socials because I love this pattern. So it's a Tunisian crochet cowl done in the round. And I did about 21.5 inches is the total length. And I used the Spring Fade Minis from Montana Crochet. And I love how this turned out. It is so drapey, and I'll put in some final pictures of me wearing it, not, you know, just cozy in my chair here. But I love the drape. I love how the yarn turned out after blocking. It's a little itchy right next to my skin before blocking, but after blocking I have no issues. And so I really love how it turned out. It's a Tunisian full stitch was the primary stitch here for it. And this is the first time that I've ever done anything in the round in Tunisian crochet. And so for those of you who don't know what doing Tunisian crochet in the round entails, is you have to use a double-ended crochet hook. So you can either use a solid wooden one or two interchangeables connected by a cord. And that's actually what I ended up doing. And if you decide to do this pattern, that is what I would suggest, is getting an extra hook, because not many of us have duplicate Tunisian crochet hook sets. The reason why is because you can get pretty much all the way around, especially as you get bigger, all the way around but on your forward pass before you have to do your return pass. And so you have to have two different balls of yarn, and you do a forward pass with one ball and a return pass with another ball. And once I got through the first, few rows, and it took me probably like 6 or 7 tries to get this kind of beginning chain and beginning few rows kind of set up. But once I did that, this is such an easy and mindless pattern. And I'm a big fan of the Juniper Cowl, and if you love the Juniper Cowl, I promise you're gonna love this. And I think that even if you haven't done a lot of Tunisian crochet, if you've done it and you understand the basics, you should totally do this, because this is actually only my third Tunisian crochet project. I've done two shawls before, the Westmont Shawl and the Loveland Light from Toni Lipsey, both of them from Toni Lipsey. And so This was my third Tunisian crochet, and I didn't know how to full stitch, but a full stitch is pretty easy. It's just a YouTube video, and I got it. So I love how the yarn turned out, like the fade. I wish there was a little bit, like I'd done something a little bit different. I would probably maybe do a little bit more transition between the colors, because the three skeins of each color faded really well together, but in between the colors, so this red to this like orangey brown, and then the blue and the tan kind of orange kind of turned out well, but I probably would have done a little bit more, maybe done like a row of each for a little bit, just to transition a little bit better. So that's probably the only thing that I would do different. I'm definitely going to be making more of these in the future. I have some fade sets already. Like I have one fade set that I got with the Miss Babs sock while I was at Flock. And so I'm going to be making more, and it's a great mini stash buster. So if you've got lots of minis, I would highly recommend doing this pattern. So I will include everything below in the details and on my socials. So check it out. It's coming out November 9th from violet.loops, Jennifer Lovett. So definitely check that out. My second finished object is my Sophie Shawl. And this is the pattern by PetiteKnit. It's kind of hard to showcase in a video, but we'll do it up. And this is a knitted project. So I just did Tunisian crochet. This is now a knitted project. And I consider myself a baby knitter, and I thought it was a relatively easy project to do. It's by PetiteKnit, and I used Dream in Color Classy, which is their worsted weight base in the colorway Burr. I used 2 skeins of it. I actually have a little bit of it left. But I probably could have gone in the middle a little bit for a few more rows before decreasing. But I decreased about maybe 2 rows before I had to. I decreased about 2 rows before I thought like my yarn was gonna run out, because I didn't really want to play yarn chicken at the end. And so this is about how much I had left. So I could have gotten it a little bit bigger in that center, but I'll find something scrappy to use with this. And so this was a very easy pattern as a beginning knitter. My final size ended up being somewhere between the small and the medium. I was counting my repeats. In fact, I'll show you kind of how I counted my repeats. In a previous video, you might have seen kind of my stitch markers. So I did that to count my repeats, but I also kept track of it in my notebook. So that way, although I didn't finish, I finished, but I didn't finish highlighting. But that's how I kept track of my rows and where I was at. And so I marked my center way here. And so that way I could keep track of where I was at. And so it ended up being somewhere in between the small and the medium, which I was fine with. I was more set on using this yarn for this project and then coming up with the final kind of size to be exact. I knew that regardless of the final size, it was going to be wearable, because she also makes a scarf version, which is a very like petite little like neck scarf that one of the gals at my Friday Night Knits does, or she recently did, and it was so cute. She inspired me to perhaps make another Sophie scarf, so the smaller one, using some of my leftover yarn, probably in the future. I really want to cast on something, you know, another knitted project. And so, yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I was pretty good. There were a couple instances where I either had a drop stitch or something happened because I wasn't paying attention to my increases. So I actually went over, and so I had to pull back. But it turned out, you know, fine. I really can't see any of my mistakes in it. Because it is garter stitch, it was really easy. It was just the I-cord edging that I needed to like really pay attention to. And so, in fact, you can't really notice anything. There's only where, and it's only on one side where I really notice where I joined. See, I don't see it on this side, and I don't even know if you guys are going to be able to see it. But on this side, you can kind of see where I joined my yarn. Again, this is kind of the first time I'd done any type of joining when it comes to knitting and adding my second ball. So that was kind of interesting for me, but I did it. It looks fine. Only I'll ever notice it, so... yeah, this is the Sophie Shawl from PetiteKnit. A very doable pattern for a beginning knitter, so I would highly recommend it if you are getting into knitting just like me. Taking a look at this pattern, because I was really looking for something that I thought a beginning knitter like me could do. You know, I'd seen a video from Taylor at Fiber for the People, but that's not her podcast. I forget her podcast, but I'll put it on the screen. Where she was doing, you know, kind of like a hot takes video. And one of it was about not needing to like do pot holders or, you know, mittens or scarves or whatever, although this is a shawl. Scarf shawl, as like your project, wanting to like actually dive into something that you want to make. And so that's what I was trying to do here is look at something that I wanted to make, that I would wear, and that had kind of the skill level where I was at. And so I learned a couple new skills: knitting front and back, the I-cord edging. And so I'm ready to kind of take this to the next level. So I'm not sure what I think my next knitted project is going to be the Love Note, which is on my list for my fall knitting plans. If you saw that video, I'll put a link up in the description and above about my fall knitting plans. I'm going to make the like a toddler size version for my daughter, and kind of work out the kinks there, and use a little bit cheaper yarn than what I would use for myself, just because they grow out of things so fast. So yeah, this is the PetiteKnit Sophie Shawl in the colorway Burr from Dream in Color. Classy. This is their classy worsted base. I thought this yarn would soften a little bit more after I blocked it, and it didn't. So it's a little too scratchy for me. And this is also kind of why I wanted to use the yarn, because I didn't see myself making anything else with this yarn. And so it's the perfect scarf. So whether I want to keep it or if I want to gift it to someone in my family, it's a perfect kind of little project. So, and it didn't take me that long. I actually finished it in maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I finished it, let's see, Sophie, 20, yeah, probably about 3 weeks. I probably could have finished it in 2 weeks, but I kind of got a little, you know, towards the end, it wasn't I was getting a little fatigued on it. I just wanted to get it over with, and so I kind of delayed it a little bit, and so that's why it took me 3 weeks. But it's definitely something that if you just sit down and do, in fact, because it's, you know, one of these where it starts small and gets big, the largest, longest parts were that center part. So those are my 2 finished objects, the full fade cowl and the Sophie shawl from PetiteKnit, and the full fade cowl from Jennifer Lovett. Next, we're going to go into our works in progress. In fact, one of them is just need to sit down and get it done and finish it. I should have had it done before the end of October, but we went on a trip to Seattle. So if you've seen my Instagram, you might have seen me crocheting around Seattle and the Oregon area. And so we went on a road trip, and I had the full intention of finishing this by the end of October so that I could include it as a finished object for October. But I ended up actually using some of the yarn to make, like, whip up a hat. It's not here, but I whipped up like a little baby hat with no pattern for my daughter. So that's technically my 3rd finished object for the month. But I ended up using the yarn that I needed to finish my Kima Cardi from TL Yarn Crafts. And so I will show you my Kima Cardi and where I'm at. So if you've seen my social or some of my shorts, because I did post this on my YouTube shorts. So this is, it's going to be really hard to show on camera, but this is the Kima Cardi from TL Yarn Crafts. And I have some thoughts on this. The only thing that I have left to do is I have to do the ribbing for the center, kind of up, you know, what is this? Like, just for the center. So I have to do that ribbing, and then I have to attach it. So I have to seam it. There's a lot of seaming in this sweater. I don't like seaming. I'm not very good at seaming. So I made the extra large 2XL version, and I look like a potato sack in it. So here are my thoughts. I used Lion brand Hue and Me, which is the yarn that the cardigan calls for. I think I used about probably 9 balls by the time I was done, and 8 or 9 balls. I just have to sew in one more pocket too. I learned a lot of things on this. So this is a project I started well over a year ago, and I picked it back up because I didn't have that much to do. I had to seam it together. I had to redo one of the front panels, seam it together, do the pockets, do the arms, and do the ribbing. Wasn't really, because the front panel, I honestly redid one of them and did it in like less than a day. And the pockets didn't take that much time. Even this ribbing, once I sit down and do it, because it is bulky weight yarn, it didn't, it's number 5 bulky weight yarn, because I have some of it right here. It didn't take that long to do. Even the arms didn't take that long to do. I might have done the arms, both of them, in one day, or if not 2 days, but one day for sure. I learned a lot because I don't ever want to do bulky yarn against just my body. I feel like that just makes me look like a potato sack. And I'm not trying to, like, you know, be self-deprecating, but it just doesn't look flattering to me. And I think I would have maybe liked it if I had made it not so oversized. So the cardigan itself is meant to be oversized. So it's meant to have 12-ish or more inches of positive ease. So I'm a 43 bust. I made the XL, double XL. And this is, you know, I made it long before I really knew much more about positive ease and things like that, where I was just making it based on the clothing size that I wear. And that is a mistake. I now know. And I should have maybe just fixed it myself, but I didn't. And that is why I have this giant house coat that I probably won't wear that much, which is a shame. So, because, you know, I did put time and effort into this and yarn into this. It is nice for just like wearing around the house. Like I've already worn it around the house, even though it's like half done. But I don't think I'll ever use bulky weight yarn against my skin, against my body. I love bulky weight yarn. In fact, I use this yarn for this blanket right here, another Toni Lipsey pattern. And I love it for blankets and things like that because they work up super fast, but I won't ever be using chunky weight yarn for a garment. I might make it for a hat or an accessory of some sort, but definitely not for a garment that's supposed to be worn against my body. But I will definitely have this done for my kind of like November recap, so you can kind of see it fully put together, and I'll take pictures of it. But yeah, so if you want to make the Kima Cardi, just ask yourself how big you really want it. Because I think it wouldn't have been so bad if I had just made the small medium, which I think would have been like a 46 bust. Or maybe if I made the large, I don't remember what the sizes were, but if I had made the small medium or the next one instead of the one that was like a 60-inch positive ease. And so maybe I would have had a better experience, but you live and learn. And yeah, this is my Kima Cardi from Toni Lipsey of TL Yarn Crafts. And it is almost done. Just a few more seaming things and the ribbing and a pocket, and we're calling it a day. So that is my first kind of whip that is almost not a whip. It's basically done in my eyes. I won't be blocking it either because it's already oversized. So the next project that I actually started on our road trip is the Westmont Shawl from, let me get it all out because it's on my hooks. So this is a Tunisian crochet shawl, and let me make sure you're seeing the correct size. So it's going to be hard because it's actually getting to the point where I have to scrunch it on my needles to like, and this is a 40 some odd inch cord, I think. Maybe it's not. Maybe I didn't use the big cord quite yet. I usually switch to the big cord once I get closer to that. But this is the Westmont Shawl from Toni Lipsey. It's a Tunisian crochet shawl that I am doing in Malabrigo sock in the colorway white. I forget the number, but it's white, not like ivory white, natural white, stark white. And the reason I'm doing something in stark white is because my mother wanted a white shawl for her formals for Eastern Star. So I'm actually almost done with this second mesh section. And I think I then have one more set of repeats, but I haven't even started my second ball of yarn. So I can't remember. I've made this before. I'll pop up a picture of what it looked like before. I don't know if my gauge is much tighter this time. I'm hoping that it, expands quite a bit. I'm sure it will once it's blocked. But I'm wondering if my gauge is a little bit tighter now, especially since my first Westmont shawl was my first Tunisian crochet project, whereas this is my second Westmont, and this will be my fourth Tunisian crochet project. And so I'm just wondering if my tension is tightening quite a bit. And so I really love it. I'm not making nearly as many mistakes. And I say that because one of the gals that I do a stitch night with, she's making, I'm helping her, and or like just not helping her, but you know, she's making this too. And you know, I can't tell you how many times I tore back on my first shawl, and the second time that I've done it, I make hardly any mistakes. And the only time I've made mistakes this time is when I've been distracted by something, like usually at a knit night, or I've been putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up. And so that's where I was making mistakes. So I think the most I've ever had to rip out is maybe 1 or 2 rows once. And then the rest is usually I catch it, because I've learned on that shawl that you need to count every row and every half. Well, I don't count every half. I count the row when I'm done. So once the row is done, before I do my return pass, I will count all my stitches on my hook. So I don't count the spaces, I count my stitches till I get to my middle. I don't count my 2 middle, and then I count my other half. And if those 2 numbers match and everything kind of looks okay, because I've had instances where the stitches matched, but maybe I did the wrong stitch or something like that, then I will do my return pass. And so, yeah, I'm just now getting to this point, because I think I'm at about 130 on each side. And again, like I said, I'm still only on my first ball of yarn. I still have that much left on my first ball of yarn. So I will, if the yarn doesn't finish, so if the pattern finishes before the yarn, I'm probably going to try my attempt at expanding the pattern to use all the yarn to make an oversized shawl for my mom, just in case my tension is a little bit too tight and it doesn't block out as big as, say, my first one did. But I only used 2 skeins of Malabrigo sock for my first one, and I had little bits and bobs of it after, so I didn't use 2 full skeins. And this one I will be able to use pretty much 2 full skeins, except for maybe like a tiny little bit for when I switch balls. But yeah, so I should have this done. Honestly, if I sat down, I could probably have this done in like 2 or 3 days. But it's just getting into like a really busy time right now, even though I'm off from work right now. We went on a road trip, so that was really busy. I have family coming into town. I'm going to the SoCal Fiber Fest in a few weeks, so it's just going to be very busy. So this is the Westmont Shawl from Toni Lipsey of TL Yarn Crafts. So that's very much of a theme. Toni is very much a theme on my channel because I love her patterns. And she's the queen of Tunisian crochet, and I love everything about it. So the next pattern, my next work in progress is the Fairbanks Shawl from Toni Lipsey. And let me find it in here because it's not that far along. I just started it the other day. And I don't have a stitch marker in, so I've got to be careful. So this is the Fairbanks Shawl start, and I am using the Muscarella sock minis from the Toni Lipsey collection, along with, so I'm not going to pull them all out, but there's some blues and some like neutrals and some purples and pinks and everything under the sun. So the full, every colorway just in a mini skein. And the Fairbanks, and I'll put a picture of it on screen, but it's an alternating, you do the minis for each kind of striped colorway. And then I'm using also from the collection, but full skeins of the Surf City on the sock base that Muscarella offers. And I love this color. Like, I honestly love this color. And so this is really an easy pattern. It actually reminds me of her flat iron shawl. It's very similar, at least in the first part of it. I don't know if the edging is perhaps different because I haven't gotten to that yet, but it's very similar. It's very much TV watching. Don't have to pay attention because it's just, if you screw up, you just go back a couple of stitches and you're fine. What I really like about this pattern is she offered a sock kind of alternative, so like a fingering weight alternative. So it's designed for DK, but I don't have DK minis. I don't buy DK minis. That's just a personal preference of mine. And so she worked with Ashley from Montana Crochet, and she Ashley actually made this pattern with her 2019 Advent yarn, and she made it in the fingering weight. So to adjust for the fingering weight, she gives directions on like how you do it for fingering weight, which I really appreciated. So that is my Fairbanks shawl. So this won't be done by the time I do my next kind of full recap video. But it will be a steady progress, because once I finish the Westmont, I will probably pick this up a little more often, because I'm working on another work in progress, and I don't have much to show you except a few things like my yarn and some swatches. So my next project is one of the test sweaters that I had applied for. So if you saw my fall knitting plans, you had seen that I was going to do a sweater as kind of my wild card project, because I was either I was going to do a test that I applied for, or I was going to do the homegirl sweater. And I actually didn't get that test, so I was planning on just doing the homegirl sweater. But roughly around the same time, or maybe a week or two later, I had applied to do the same person's test for a Tunisian crochet sweater. And so I got selected. And so I'm really excited, because this is really challenging. It's going to challenge my skill set. But I know that once it's, completed, that I will be a much better Tunisian crochet crocheter. So this is, let me make sure I don't have it upside down. So this is my swatch for the Sweater Weather by Lindsey at Just the Worsted, and I am using the Malabrigo Arroyo in the colorway English Rose. So the pattern either calls for a DK weight, either held together to make a DK weight, and which is what she did in her pattern sample, like a mohair and a fingering or a sport to make the DK, or just a DK weight. I was going to use that yarn that I'd gotten, and I showed you, let's see if I can show you, that I had gotten from the Knit Crate box a while back. This yarn, but when I did the swatch in that yarn, it's the Alana Oasis. It's a DK alpaca merino Surrey blend, and I really like it, even though it's single ply. I really liked it, and I had enough skeins for it, but I decided that I didn't like the stitch definition of it. I think because of the halo, it just wasn't giving kind of this pattern, especially this rib pattern. This is called Tunisian rib stitch here. No, it's upside down now. I like to hold it upside down. It wasn't giving the definition I wanted here, so I had some of it in my stash. And so I have 5 skeins in my stash, not enough for the sweater, but my local yarn store has it. So I'll probably be getting just a couple more skeins just to finish this. So that is, I just got caught by my husband. But so this is going to be my sweater weather. It's due in January. So well, it's starting in the fall. I don't know if I'll have it done because I'm actually, let me show you, I'm doing the ribbing now. And it is, I did it with the hook that it called for. I was way too tight. So I went up a whole hook size, not just a half a hook size. And it might be a little too big, so I probably should have just gone up half. So I'm just working on the ribbing right now. It takes forever because it's like a special stitch. It's not like normal crochet ribbing, and so it's taking me quite a long time. And they're stitches I know and I'm completely familiar with, but they're just really tight, and so it's really hard to get into the stitch, which is making it harder. I know that once I get to the kind of this stuff, it won't be as difficult. So I'm really hoping I can make the deadline for this pattern. But once I get kind of like the Westmont off of my hooks, like this is going to be my primary project, with the Fairbanks kind of being my secondary project. So that is the sweater weather test that I'm going to be doing. That will come out in January sometime, by Lindsey at Just the Worsted. So the last thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about today, well, actually a couple things. So the next thing I wanted to do was kind of like where I'm at with my knitting plans. And so I had 7 projects planned for the fall, of which I'm going to call 3 of them done because that Kima Cardigan is practically done. So 3 are done. And then I have 3 more on the hooks because I have the Just the Worsted sweater test, the Westmont, and the Fairbanks done. Oh, actually I had 8 total. And then, because 1 was a wild card. And then I have 2 more that I have yet to cast on. And so that is the Love Note for my toddler, and the cabled Christmas stockings for our family. I was going to make 3 of them. And so I'm pretty far in, and I'm going to get those, at least 6 of those done. I'm a little worried about the last 2 casting those on, just because I know that sweater is going to take up quite a bit of my time just trying to get through it in the next 2 months. So that's kind of where I'm at with and kind of the accountability I have for my sweater weather project. So the next thing I want to show you is just a couple of the acquisitions that I have recently. So the first is this beautiful kind of garnet, and it is called garnet, red from MJ Yarns, which is a silk paca fingering, which is the name of the yarn, silk paca fingering, in the color garnet. And it is a 70% baby alpaca, 30% silk. And it is, oh my gosh, so squishy and so adorable. And MJ Yarns is located in Pike's Place in Seattle. And so I was really surprised to see a yarn shop in Pike's Place. I didn't know there was one. So it's a brother-sister team. So they knit a bunch of the stuff that they sell, and then they do all the dyeing by hand. So I got 2 skeins, probably going to make a top out of this, a knitted top out of this. There's 430 yards in each skein. And the second thing that I acquired recently is 4 skeins of botanical yarn. They're 4-ply superwash merino, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's their sock base. and the colorway is their Wool and Folk exclusive. So I saw, probably just like most of us, I saw the kind of drama issues that went on with Wool and Folk, and I feel really bad for a lot of the vendors that and dyers that were there and how they were treated. And so, you know, there was obviously so many vendors there that were negatively impacted. And so Botanical Yarns, I had actually seen them at Flock, and I really loved their yarn. But by the time I came back, because I did my circle and then came back, they had sold out of a lot of things. And so I wasn't able to get anything that I really wanted. And so I knew that in the future I did want something. And so as a way to support them, because they did fly 6,000 miles to get to Wool and Folk, I wanted to get a couple skeins of their exclusive colorway. It is gorgeous, and they hand dye to order. So you can go online and order this, and it'll ship within a few weeks. Which I think is really cool. So you can always get a batch. It's not like a limited run. I mean, it still might be limited run. They might not dye it anymore, but, you know, I'm going to put the link below. And so if you would like to support them or any of the other vendors from Wool and Folk, I'll also include that link. So I'm going to make a top out of this. Don't know which top yet, but I'm going to make a top out of this. I really love the creaminess of the white and then the speckled yarns. I love how it looked knitted up, so I'll probably make a knitted top out of this. So I'm really excited about it. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to my channel and giving this video a big old thumbs up. It really supports my channel, and it helps others like you find and beat the YouTube algorithm, find my content if you like and subscribe. If you are not new around here, thank you so much for coming back, friend. I really appreciate you watching my content and, you know, being with me as I talk through all my yarn adventures. And so thank you so much, and consider giving it a big old thumbs up as well. I have a lot of fun plans coming up, especially the SoCal Fiber Fest coming up in a few weeks, so I will be vlogging that just to see what it's like. I don't think it's going to be as big as any, you know, Fiber Fest that I've been to, but it's local, and I'm going to get to see a lot of more local California suppliers, dyers, artists, notion artists, all that fun stuff. So I'm really excited. So I will have a video in a few weeks on that. Until I see you next time, friends, have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye. Bye now.